Hello, everyone. Trust you're doing well. Well, it's good to be back here with more stories and gist for you guys. As you all can see, I'm not alone in the studio. I remain your humble host, Dennis Oyima, and I have with me the famous, well-known editor, the managing editor for the Eagle Online, Mr. Dotun Oladipo. It's really good to have you on this show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me again
You're welcome, sir.
on your program.
So today we'll be talking about the Super Eagles, like I mentioned earlier. As a lot of you might have known, and for those of you that don't know, the German coach that Nigerians signed a contract with, Bruno Lambadia, has resigned due to some circumstances. And after losing two matches, one to South Africa and the other draw 1-1. Sir, would you like to share more light to that one?
We've been trying to put this in perspective because indeed a lot of Nigerians were not too sure the circumstances in which the German did not report at all before saying he wasn't going to come after the Nigerian Football Federation had publicized the signing of this German, who a lot of people don't know. Because for a while now, what Nigerians have been clamoring for is that if we are going to have a coach, the way the Eagles are now, we should have a coach who is well known and respected. Right? Because when this man's name was mentioned, Bruno Labbadia, a lot of us had to seek the help of Google to even, know who this man was, because we've not even, I've not even heard his name, not once. And like you said, in the World Cup qualifying build-up for Africa, Nigeria didn't do well in the last two matches. One, we had a foreigner in charge, and then the last one, which we shamelessly lost to Benin Republic, who we are playing again this weekend in an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. If you need, the judge had to be allowed to go, because what the man who left before him did, and for which he was brought in, he virtually inherited the team that he left and had a change in pattern and the rest. But that team still didn't deliver in two matches.
So are you saying that the team didn't perform well because they didn't respect the coach?
No, not because they didn't respect the coach. It's just tactical approach, ability to read matches. That's what makes the difference between a good and a bad coach. Your ability to respond. We saw that in the Nigerian team when we had a Clemens Westerhoff. You could see a man who had the capacity to read matches, to make the desired changes. That was what failed when Finidi George was around. He had good guys on the bench, but he didn't know how to make use of them. And also, like some of us suspected, there could have been some internal wrangling. And he had then made up his mind that instead of making use of these guys, let me bench them. It's just a suspicion. That's what people said, because it's out there that he had good guys on the bench who could have changed the course of that match. But on Labbadia, what went wrong? NFF told us a story. And that story was the fact that back home in Germany, where Labbadia is from, there are certain taxes you will need to pay, which is going to be about 40% of his take-home pay. and that he wanted Nigeria to shoulder that. If indeed the NFF is saying, yes, we've tidied up this contract with him, that should also have been taken care of. We shouldn't raise the hope of Nigerians and dash it. We shouldn't have done that at all. Because if you take 40% out of a man's take home, and then the take home that he negotiated for was just about what he wanted, then you have made nonsense of his salary.
Well, this is very funny to me, because how do you, or is this general that you go work for an international country and then you are still being taxed in your country?
No, it's a standard practice.
Wow.
Just the way it is in Nigeria. The fact that you stay in Ogun State and you work in Lagos does not mean that you go back to Ogun State to go and pay your taxes. You pay where you work or where you stay, depending on the law. You'll see that we've had some cases of recent where footballers have been dragged to court over tax issues. So you must watch what your own law says. You must really, because where you earn your money is where ordinarily somebody like me will feel you should pay. But we found out that in some jurisdictions, they are different. So that's what makes the difference. And more so, we all know, our coaches don't stay in Nigeria. Once they are foreign coaches, it's only when they are matches that you see them coming to Nigeria to perform this so-called magic. And we've had this argument, we've had this debate, and we've said it so many times. The Super Eagles should have a standing team that you only bring in the foreign elements to join when they are international matches. We used to have that. The difference we had when Westerhoff was here, Bonfrejo, the same, was the fact that these guys were building their own teams here. They built the teams here. The bulk of those people that Clemens Westerhoff used to qualify Nigeria for his first World Cup in 1994, they were guys that were playing in Nigeria or that he built and sent abroad. The likes of Okocha. Yekini was then in between Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria playing for ICC, playing for the team in Cote d'Ivoire, but always home. So they had time, they could play together, they could train together, and then we saw the difference. Westerhoff went from one league match in Nigeria to the other. He stayed in Nigeria.
Very well, sir. But sir, I would like to drag you back a little bit. You mentioned that Nigeria should have chested the 40% tax that the German people wanted.
Yeah.
So my question is, why don't we pick Nigerian coaches or African coaches rather than external bodies like white people?
Yes. Indeed, we've had some African coaches who have done very well. The last Africa Cup of Nations was won by Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, and they are the local coach, meaning that they can do the job. But what we have found out in Nigeria is that there are too many interests and interferences in our football. At some point, we had a lot of reports about people who are in power foisting players on coaches, telling them the players to invite. Even when you know that even this person you are inviting, if they take out the first 11, that person cannot even be in the second 11. They still bring in these boys. Talk about the under 17. Talk about the under 21 when it was under 20. talk about it at any level. We saw a lot of that. As a sports reporter, when I started journalism, we saw a lot of that and we questioned it. Because it is not the best for a country to have talents and then we are unable to use those talents. The difference that Westerhoff had, which gave him that huge mileage and success, was the fact that he was actually employed by the NFF, but was not dealing with the NFF. Rather, he had direct access to the then Chief of General Staff, that's the Vice President of Nigeria then, Admiral Augustus Ayom, who is late now. Anything that Westerhoff wanted, he went to the villa, to Aso Rock. And nobody dared stop him on the way. Because we had a man who was the second in command who loved football. But for that, at that time, we wouldn't have qualified for the World Cup. Because our people will rather have us fail and line their pockets. That's what we've discovered. There are times we have had issues as sports reporters who question some of those that they invite to the national camp, and for which we could provide alternatives. At the time, players like Rashidi Yekini, Finidi George, Austin Okocha, Austin Eguavon, who is now in charge of this team that is playing this weekend, at the time they were in the national team, you couldn't question it. Because we knew they was the best for the roles they were playing. They had alternatives, but at that time, when you see a Nigerian 11, you know it's a Nigerian 11. Who can we, at the time Sheikh Gwadebami was holding the number 7 position, say, we'll throw him out. So we knew up till the time, and even when Westerhoff came, that he was picking the best. And he was not just picking those guys from the local leagues, he was helping them to hone their skill and sending them out to become better refined. So it's difficult for our Nigerian coaches to succeed because of such interference.
What's going to be your advice on the politics on this football? Because from what you said, they have politics in football that is affecting these coaches.
In fact, the politics in football is worse than the politics that politicians play in Nigeria. Politics in sports in general. And the reason is this. There is a lot of money in sports, especially football, that people don't pay attention to. Look at the last Olympics we went to. Look at the funding that was done. So you know that there is money. And what people want is, put me on that team, put me on that team. And then it was as bad as the fact that at some point, we were hearing that when they pay players allowances, when somebody has helped to influence that player coming into the team, they share it. Imagine a player collecting $5,000 for a draw or a loss. If they win, it's $10,000. That's apart from the camp fees. That's apart from the fact that they'll be reimbursed for traveling down. So that kind of money, when you have it, and there are people who have access, who can influence, that's what they do. Seriously. And that's why it's difficult to say, okay, you now have a Nigerian who is desperate for a job. And that's why till today, I still say it, the Nigerian coach for who I have the greatest respect still remains Chief Adeboye Onimide. He walked away from the job when pressure was too much for him to include players he knew would not deliver on his mandates. He walked away. He's still the best Nigerian coach, as far as I'm concerned. That is why you find out that some people, no matter what you offer, they can't take the job of coaching the Nigerian team. They won't go near it because there is so much politics. This urge for money. That is. So we have good guys who have licenses up to the A level from FIFA to coach teams. But where are they? We've had some who have ventured out of this country, and you could see that these guys have the potential. They've coached national teams of other countries. You could see it. But what has happened to them here?
Well,
It's a big issue.
I would like to take you on the name you mentioned, Austin Eguavoen. He has, coached Nigeria. He took us to the level of bronze medal in 2006. He also represented in 2010, 2011. But my question now is, why can't they make him the main coach of Nigerian Super Eagles? Because he has...
It depends. Because sometimes, really, football is a matter of the depth of knowledge that you have. It's a matter of the depth that you have in reading matches, in studying your opponents. When you sit down with some foreign coaches and you look at the way they plan their strategy for matches, they play this match on their system before they even step out into the field. Our own people don't have that kind of depth. They don't. So, we are now saying that you now want to use raw power against people who are using AI to play football. We really don't need the AI. Because till date, I'm still saying, I can be faulted. But that team that we had in 1994, I was quite proud of that team. When you have a team that a player collects the ball and without looking up, he flips it and knows that his teammates will be waiting for him. It's a brilliant team. That's what you find with the Brazilians, the Jogo Bonito boys, where someone is holding on to the ball and knows the next move is making, even without looking up. So when you now say we should have an Austin Eguavoen, how much of investment have we as a country made in his training? Even he himself, how much of training has he invested in terms of attending courses, mixing with other coaches and all the rest? You find out that some coaches, they tell you they are taking a break for 1 year. Big time coaches, just a break. And what do they go to do? They go to learn from other people. They can go and do an understudy. The former goalkeeper of Manchester United, what's his name? He took a break for 1 year. And what did he go to do? He went back to retrain himself after his exit from Man U. Now we have seen with Manchester United now that the goalkeeper wasn't the problem. We have seen it because Onana was brought in. He's always conceding goals because that team is obviously not together. So you now need to ask yourself, what's the quality of the coaches that Manchester United is recruiting? What's the quality of the players that you have? So if Nigeria, we have all of these talents together, English Premier League, the German Bundesliga, and all the rest, and then we don't have somebody who can put them together, like Westerhoff did for us, we're always going to be in trouble. And coaching is not also alone about what you do on the field. It begins from what you do off the pitch. How much of training in psychology do our coaches have? You read some coaches, they tell you, we have done all the talking. because they know that that is where it is. Psychologically, they built the players, psych them to be ready for the matches. That was why somebody who didn't have the temperament to relate with players easily lost out in coaching our team. I don't want to mention names now because that season is over. When you now know how to deal with your players, then you go into the technical aspect. But a lot of people don't know that it's a combo. Your players must respect you. Once they don't respect you because you are not at their level, it becomes a problem. You see that these players also, they give more regard to these foreigners because they know that they are earning in dollar, the man is earning in dollar. It's dollar to dollar. Not the man who is in the office. Maybe, I don't know how much the salary of Eguavon is now as technical advisor to the NFF. But if the man is earning 500,000 naira and the player who is abroad earns 500,000 naira in one day, you won't have respect for him. You won't. It's a whole lot that we need to deal with. And that's why you see each time we try to go to a local coach, we still go back to the foreigner. Because, yes, the NFF did not discuss what Labadia's salary would have been if you had taken that job. But I can assure you, it's a huge one. Always. But go and ask when they contract around, look, how much do they offer them? How much? So it's so much of a lot of things that we are missing out. And unfortunately, we have some very proud elements who are players in our national team. So it's difficult. We are going to see if it is worth keeping the Guava with what will happen this weekend. All the usual suspects are in camp. The only person who is arriving tomorrow is Victor Osimhen, who just moved to Galatasaray. And by now, he should be very close to Nigeria so that I can join them in camp tomorrow. If you can do it in these two matches against Benin Republic and Rwanda, then maybe there should be a reconsideration for him.
So basically, we should not expect so much from Iguavon.
We can, if he commands the respect of those guys, and if he can talk to them. Because like I said, we have already made players. So the first thing is to sit down and talk with them, psych them, prep them into what you want. Then when you have done that, is now it remains the technical part. How much of the Benin Republic guys have we studied now? At least it was the coach that we had before, Ganatro, that is coaching that team, and they beat us. With all our stars and all the rest, they defeated us, meaning that the man possesses some technical depth that gave him the edge over Nigeria in that World Cup qualifier. Will that technical depth show again? Have we looked at that match
Mistakes.
to see where we went wrong? To see the kind of players we should not keep on the bench again? Because like I said earlier, we kept some players on the bench that a lot of people believe would have made a difference. Mm-hmm. So if we play Benin Republic, we win. We play Rwanda, we win. Then I'm sure the NFF too will sit back and think. And we've done it before. We can have a consortium of local coaches. When you have a consortium of coaches, they will fight themselves. They will disagree on the number of people to bring, on the players to call to camp. Then you will now see the best. Because now it's just one man listing out the players he wants. And we have a lot of players out there. We've done it before, where we had consortium, about 6-10 coaches who came together and decided, okay, let's run this way. And they brought in the best players. Because everybody would say, no, consider this, consider. And they had arguments, fought over it, agreed, and then they gave us a team. We can do the same. But I still believe, sincerely, that we can build coaches who can do well locally and give them the free hands to work. We don't have a local team, as in a standing team now that
Yes.
can. We don't have. We are completely dependent on the foreigners. They come in on a Tuesday or Wednesday for a match that will be played on Saturday. They finish playing it and they are back to their teams. A lot of countries don't do that again. They have their top 11 and they have reserve 11. Look at the first match of this season in the Premier League that Chelsea lost. It was a second team that played against them. The Man City team was their second 11, not even the first. And when you look at all of these other teams, all of these other countries, they have football academies and all the rest where they pick players.
I think
We've
we have
lost
that
all of
here.
that. No, we've lost it. Go and check how many academies are fully functional. How many clubs have breeding grounds where you have the under 7, under 11, under 15, under 13 is here, under 17, under 19, and then those guys can graduate into the senior teams. We don't.
No, before we used to have Pepsi do that for us, but I think you're right. With
Yeah.
the whole...
Sheikh Adebami is doing something, but how much of support is he getting? The man who runs Remo Stars is doing something, but how much of countries pay attention to these things? When you go and look at it, most of those who are playing in the major leagues all over the world now, Europe, go and check all over Europe, you'll see that they are products of the feeder teams. Go and check them out. But we don't have that now. No.
Well, I would say this was a very productive conversation, and I hope this has been very impactful to you, the viewers, because I have learned so much from this discussion. Until next time, we'll bring you more stories, more information as regards football and every other aspect we can. I would like to say a very big thank you to you, sir, for this very wonderful, impactful information you've passed on to us.
Thank you so
It's
much.
really nice
I
to have you on the
appreciate
show.
it. Thank you
So,
so much.
for my viewers, please leave us a like, follow us on all social media platforms on the Eagle Online, subscribe to our channel so we can bring you very good information like this one you just listened to, and then share to your loved ones, friends, and family because they need this information too. Until next time, goodbye.